The only time Emoji cheated on an exam was when she asked for help on a history exam in middle school, and her teacher told her the answer. She literally whispered the answer to Emoji so none of the other students would hear. It was very weird apparently, uncomfortable even. The hot, salty breath in her ear, the gentle hand on the shoulder, made her question if it was truly worth cheating at all.
So, a few days ago, Dolan went to a concert that was enormous. His favorite song was coming up and he was really excited. He saw this other dude chug bottles of beer, one after the other. He paid no attention and kept on listening to the concert. When his favorite song came on, the dude screamed so everyone could hear how much he liked the song. Then he ran up to the stage, found the nearest pole, and started to strip. Dolan was scarred for life.
Spincess was desperate to impress a guy, nudge nudge Tolop, who didn't really like her, mostly because she was socially awkward and had very few friends. Her seat was next to his in English class, so she saw he liked visual games because of a binder with a link on it. Spincess decided to make a stupid pun to break the ice and start a conversation, so she gathered up her courage and said, What did Zelda say to Link when he couldn't open the door? Triforce! He scoffed out a small laugh, and they've been friends ever since.
When he was in 6th grade, Salty Squid did something very stupid to get attention. During recess, on more than one occasion, he would call everyone he knew to come see him perform a crazy stunt. Once he had a decent audience, Salty Squid got one of his friends to get the crowd all hyped. He grabbed some leaves straight off the ground and ate them. Every single one. To him, everyone appeared to be amazed at what he did. Looking back, he believes they were actually disgusted. He also didn't give a shit, and he just told them that they didn't have the guts to do what he was doing. As time went on, the stunt became more and more intense. Salty Squid went from eating leaves to eating sticks. During that time, he was given the nickname Leafy, and is still called that name by some of his old classmates. When he was at a party, MKLM got so drunk that he wrecked the house where the party was being held. As he wrecked the house, he found a mushroom and picked it up. He gave it to a midget and said, "Grow, Mario, grow!" Shortly after, he passed out on the dance floor, but woke up in the attic. MKLM only knows what happened that night because after he got home, his friend Gurgak told him what happened.
One time, Ramona dated a guy named Thomas in the 8th grade. He was the type of person who just wanted to stay at home, but Ramona was the type of person who wanted to get out. On their 2-year anniversary, Ramona suggested they go out and eat somewhere. He gave her an odd look and replied, "You're such a stupid bitch. You know I'm broke as shit." They had a big argument and Ramona went home. When she woke up the next morning, she found he had broken into Ramona's house and damaged or stolen a bunch of stuff. He also carved the words, "Fuck you bitch, we are done, you stubborn ass whore," into her wall, which seems like a little bit of an overreaction.
The strangest thing that Tolop saw at a convention happened right around when he was leaving. Tolop was tired, and he was hot and sweaty from the sweater he was wearing for his Cancree cosplay, and he just wanted to get to the car. As he was passing a window though, he saw it. Across the street, on a neighboring building, there was Spider-Man actually climbing down from the roof. He walked around on a dangerous-looking building ledge like it was nothing, and then he climbed back up to the roof, and he disappeared. Tolop still regrets not getting it on camera.
One night, James Shark was on the couch eating dinner and watching The Simpsons with his dad. It was business as usual until the phone rang. The caller ID said 911. James Shark had no idea why 911 would be calling him, so he picked it up. The voice on the other end said, "Hi, did somebody from this number just call 911? When James Shark said no, they asked, "Are you the only one there?" James Shark said his dad was there with them. "Okay, have a nice day," they said, and then hung up. Nobody ever showed up at their house to check up on the place or anything. James Shark could have been a murderer answering and giving BS answers to her questions.
Spinal Palm School had a code blue one day because a student had brought weed. The teachers were told not to let the students out of their classrooms, and any student in the hall had to go down to the nearest classroom. When the door opened, the cops came in and patted everyone down. If the students had anything in their pockets, they had to empty them. They also had to unzip all the pouches of their book bags. Next, the cops brought in huge dogs, with one of them stopping and looking menacingly at Spinal Palm. After checking the school, the student who was caught with the weed ended up being one of Spinal Palm's friends. His friend ended up having to go to a different school.
When Spinal Palm's dad got tired of him leaving his toys scattered all over the yard, he told Spinal Palm that he'd tie them around his neck if he ever did it again. Spinal Palm didn't think he was serious until he found himself standing in the yard with a couple of those big-ass metal toy trucks hanging around his neck by a string. His dad let him off after about 30 minutes, but since then, he always puts his toys away.
When Gooby was in primary school, she had a choir teacher who felt the need to constantly upstage the children by giving herself the main singing role in the children's pageant. To make it worse, she couldn't even sing. She would sing completely out of key at such a high volume that it drowned out the children's voices. During one pageant, she completely butchered the Circle of Life from The Lion King by changing the lyrics to dedicate the song to America. She just started singing random songs about the USA. Meanwhile, Gooby stood outside until she could leave because her loud and obnoxious voice was giving her a headache. When she was in 5th grade, Melissa fumbled around a lot with her words. One time, when she was chatting with her friends, her crush Nixion walked up to her and asked if he could have her cheese stick. Melissa mumbled,
Yeah, I love you too. Yeah, you can have my please. Wait, no. No, I meant, can you kiss my mouth?
When Nixion asked what she had just said, Melissa mixed up her words even more and said,
Yes, you can kiss my mouth hole.
Her friends stared at her for the longest time, but Nixion sat down and kissed her. It was the best screw-up Melissa ever made.
Zaragamba had to put up with some strange habits from his family when he was growing up. His brother, otherwise known as Danger Dolan, was particularly weird. Whenever Dolan heard music that pumped him up, he would start to lose his mind. His eyes would grow large, and then he would start running around like a maniac, slapping himself on the butt over and over while singing the lyrics. When the song ended, he would just then go about his business like nothing ever happened. I do the same thing. What's the big deal?
Once, Snoopy was babysitting a 6-year-old who was really into superheroes and wished that he could fly. The kid kept asking if he had superpowers, and Snoopy told him to believe and stay determined, the usual little lessons we try to instill in children. Now that the kid thought he could fly, he snuck up to the 2nd floor while Snoopy was getting a drink and tried to jump off of the roof. He ended up crashing into a tree and was stuck there until the fire department came and got him down. Luckily for her, the kid escaped with only minor cuts and bruises.
James Shark's school had a habit of making rules preemptively when they heard rumors about a planned student prank. Some guy in a shop class were planning on making a tampon gun, so the school, trying to get out in front of it, made the rule, no tampons on school grounds. Obviously, this was a problem for the girls who needed them, so the rule was altered to, no males can have female sanitary items on hand. This led to more problems still, so it had to be fixed again. No males can have female sanitary items unless holding it or delivering it to a female on school grounds. Male teachers are allowed to have items in case female students are in need. In the end, the guys who were making the tampon gun gave it to a female student to shoot, rendering the whole rule set completely meaningless.
When Hellvent was in high school, he had a girlfriend who was extremely clingy. He tried to make it work, but he eventually got tired of her neediness and dumped her. She didn't take this rejection very well, and started a rumor that Hellvent was gay. She told all her friends, graffitied it on the school walls, and wrote it on the board of every classroom. No one really believed it though, so all she really did was show everyone how crazy she was.
One time, Gergak filed a sexual harassment claim against a coworker. He kept making sexual advances towards him despite Gergak telling him he wasn't into guys. The claim ended up going nowhere. A few months later, that same coworker organized a Christmas party at his house. Gergak said he wasn't interested, but his coworker begged until he agreed to attend. Gergak figured that he wouldn't have anything to worry about, since the rest of his team would be there. Once he talked to that coworker, it turned out that they had a lot in common. Now they have a mutual understanding that goes deeper than anything superficial. So the coworker Gergak once filed a sexual harassment claim against became a fairly close friend of his. How sweet. Princess was 9 when she attended a friend's Halloween party, which was really just a sleepover. She didn't know most of the other girls there, other than her friend and her friend's sisters. one of the girls she had seen before but hadn't actually talked to her. At one point during the party, when they finished playing games, her friend fell asleep. So the girl began using her friend's cell phone, which she shared with her sisters. When one of her sisters wanted to use it, the girl refused to give it to her. The sister tried to take the phone away, which the girl didn't like. So she began to choke her friend's sister. Another girl at the party tried to break them up while Spincess and everyone else screamed, except for her friend, who was still fast asleep. Her friend's mother ended up coming into the bedroom and breaking it up. The girl's dad had to come over and get her because she was acting so crazy. Spincess's mom and the girl's grandma happened to be friends and set up a play date with her and the girl, since she didn't have many friends. It was a success because Spincess and the girl became best friends and still are to this day.
The worst teacher Sid ever had was his 10th and 11th grade IT teacher. One day, a kid got into a verbal scuffle with him because they ran out of RAM sticks for a computer he was fixing. He told the kid to stand out in the hallway, and after he left the room, went on a rant about how much a dumbass he was. He then proceeded to grab a fire extinguisher and sprayed the student with it. That student and his friends immediately reported it to the principal, but trying to get the full story, Sid was called in. Sid told her what happened, but that he didn't think the teacher really sprayed the kid. The next day during class, Sid's teacher ranted about how he betrayed him and talked to the class about how he hated snitches. He then moved Sid into a corner isolated from the class. When Sid asked why, he said it was because his search history disturbed him greatly. When Sid asked what he found, he pushed it off saying simply, "It's just too disturbing." He also prevented Sid from participating in the school's Cyber Patriot team, costing him a $15,000 scholarship. He told Sid's friend that he was a pathetic snitch that would only hold him down. He was eventually fired after calling one of the faculty members' sons a dropout asshole.
I remember back when I worked at Target for a while, there was this one guy who walked in, an older man, who just went through the store knocking stuff onto the ground. I remember I was stocking some shelves when I saw him come down my aisle, grab a bag of chips, and then he just dropped it on the floor. Then he walked down a little further, grabbed a jar of nuts, and dropped it on the floor. I followed him, and I saw him doing this on the next aisle as well. And then the next aisle. It really ticked me off since I had to pick all that stuff up. He was dropping so much of it. So eventually I went and got my manager, and this strange old fella was escorted off the property, and I never saw him again.
The most memorable piece of advice Hellbent has ever gotten was when he was 17. He was on the phone talking to his friend when his friend suddenly said,
"If you ever play with a Ouija board, make sure you ask the spirit to have sex with you."
Hellbent doesn't know what his friend was smoking because this advice came out of nowhere. Still, he's kept the advice in mind, just in case he's ever feeling lonely or comes across a Ouija board.
2 weeks before Halloween, Princess Proton's mom hired a babysitter. At first, the babysitter was all smiles. Princess Proton even got out her half-made costume to work on. But as soon as her mom left, the babysitter's smile faded. She immediately told Princess Proton to go outside in the rain and sleep. She refused, and the babysitter went into the kitchen, grabbed a carton of rock-hard ice cream, and hurled it at Princess Proton. Then she grabbed her Halloween costume and took a dump on it. When her mom came home and saw what happened, the babysitter was fired.
The dumbest way Mimi tried to dump someone was to put a note in her boyfriend's drink. When he took a drink, he ended up choking on the note. She gave him the Heimlich maneuver and he ended up being okay. They remain friends to this day.
During high school, Melissa would attend an all-day camp once a year. The first year of camp, Melissa became friends with 2 other girls, and they developed a rivalry with a trio of boys. However, when she signed up again for the second year, the 2 girls she befriended weren't there. She sat in the corner alone until 2 boys walked up to her. They were 2/3 of the male trio. One of them commented on her Pokemon t-shirt, and they bonded over their love of the series. Along with the other boy, the 3 of them became fast friends. Once again, summer ended, and they said goodbye to each other. In the 3rd year of camp, only Melissa and the boy who also loved Pokemon remained. At this time, she realized that she was developing feelings for him. On the final day of camp, Melissa gave him a hug, but then ran off due to embarrassment. Luckily, they had exchanged numbers, and later in that week, she received a text from him. Ooh. He asked Melissa if she liked him. She responded with yes, then waited 10 agonizing seconds for a reply. It read, I like you too, but I just moved to New Mexico. That was halfway across the country for Melissa. They lost contact until Christmas Eve when she received a text from him saying Merry Christmas. Melissa responded with a witty Pokemon flirt plus a Merry Christmas to you too. They picked up almost where they left off, texting for a couple of days. Melissa then decided to go for it, asking him, "What are we? Are we together?" His response was, will you be my girlfriend?" They have been a happy couple ever since.
One time, Pandora and her boyfriend went on a camping trip with another couple. At night, they started a campfire, busted out the booze and got wasted. When the last drop of vodka was gone, they crawled into their 4-person tent and went to sleep. But Pandora was feeling too frisky to sleep. She decided to wait until everyone was asleep, then give her boyfriend a secret BJ. After stumbling around in the dark, she found her boyfriend and started going down on him. That's when she heard a voice say, "Not now, I'm too drunk." Pandora gasped and said, "Oh my god." She realized the voice was not her boyfriend's, it was her friend's boyfriend. They were both so shocked and embarrassed by the mix-up and agreed never to talk about it. To this day, their partners have no idea. Don't you just hate it when you're hanging out with your friends and you accidentally give one of them a blowjob? Jesus Christ.
One day at school, Tolb's girlfriend forgot her lunch, so he offered her a sandwich. She refused, saying, "I'd feel bad if I ate your food. You have it." He put it back in his bag just in case she changed her mind. She sat down, opened up her bag, and got out her favorite book. She opened it up and started eating the pages. Tolop managed to get her to stop eating her book and offered her a sandwich again. After that, she smiled and handed him her bag. She said, "Can you hold this? I'll be back in a moment." After a couple of minutes, he went looking for her and found her crouching on the ground, growling and eating grass. Tolop handed her bag back to her and gave her his sandwich. He told her he wasn't hungry.
Well, on the account of being a spirit, Ghost Toast never really got caught very often. The only time he did was when he was using his phone in math class. He was watching anime by putting his phone on his tendril in such a way that it looked like he was concentrating extra hard on a problem. But since he was in the same position the whole time, his teacher got suspicious and looked under the table. The worst part is that they thought he was watching porn, but he wasn't that stupid. Come on now, he's not a ghost for nothing.
Andy Mations and her sister are super competitive about seeing yellow cars. Every time they'd spot one, they'd scream, "Yellow car!" at the top of their lungs and frantically point at it, racing each other to see who finds one first. It doesn't matter where they are or what they're doing. It's just a thing that they do. They don't even keep a tally of it. They just want to spot them first. It's such a habit for Andy Mations that she accidentally did it while out with friends one time, forgetting her sister wasn't even there.
Hellbent's best friend set him up on a blind date with his girlfriend's sister. The girl showed up 30 minutes late, walked over to Hellbent and said, "Why would my sister set me up with a fat fuck like you?" She said this loud enough for everyone in the restaurant to hear her. Hellbent got up and said,
"Well, I guess I'll be leaving. You have a great evening. Bye."
When Hellbent got to his car, she ran out, banged on his window and told him he's her ride home. He told her,
"Have fun walking home,"
and drove off.
Pandora once had a crush on a boy in a rock band who had really long hair. His band wasn't very popular, but Pandora still followed them around and went to all of their gigs. One day, Pandora's crush cut off his long hair, and he donated it to cancer. His bandmates didn't like this, and they immediately fired him from his own band. Now, Pandora felt really bad for her crush, so she decided to do a nice gesture for him. She cut off her own hair, and she made it into a little wig. She then put the wig into a box, and gave it to him the next day. He was, not amused. Yeah.
Spincis had what she was planning to say in her head, and it was perfect. She was going to say,
"I've had a little bit of a crush on you for some time, and I was hoping we could go out."
Instead, Spincis got really nervous and said,
"I like your face. Can I kiss it? I like your face and also you, not just the face. Am I babbling? I just wanted to ask, do you like me?"
He slipped a note in her locker later saying he had liked Spincis even before she asked him out.
Gooby was walking with her little brother and her uncle when she decided to call her dad so that they could all talk and catch up. At the time, her phone storage was pretty full, which made her contacts list a little out of whack. She dialed what she thought was her dad's number. She waited and the phone went to voicemail, and she heard the voice of her crush instead of her dad. She immediately hung up. As it turned out, her crush's number was only 1 digit different from her dad's number. She hoped he would just ignore it, but he called back 5 minutes later. Gooby picked up and frantically explained herself. He responded with a simple, "It's all good. It's all good." She felt so embarrassed.
This happened to me in school once, in high school actually. It was a normal afternoon, the sun was shining, as of course where I live, and my buddy Freddie was like, "Hey Pringle, how about you eat this Pop-Tart and I'll put some ketchup on it and I'll give you $5. I thought to myself, that doesn't really sound that good of an idea. But I wanted some food that day and maybe some pizza. So I actually took the dare and actually ate the Pop-Tart with ketchup on it. After that day, they knew me as Pop-Tart the One. And I had $5 more, a full stomach of Pop-Tarts and ketchup. Going back to being 6 and having saved up those $60, I was full and I had $65.